Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. It's Miscellaneous Gab, and today I'm here for a special Pluribus theory discussion. Now, apologies in advance, I am on my webcam because my camera battery is dead. I thought, you know what, it's okay if it's a little less good quality because I need to talk to you guys. It's very important that we talk about Pluribus. By now, those of you who have hopped onto the Pluribus train are well into season 1, and I'm sure, just like me and many of us others, you have asked, where is this going? How will this end? Most importantly, where did this strange virus nucleotide sequence come from? And I have some thoughts, and so do you. What we know so far. As of episode 3, we understand that an RNA sequence was broadcasted from deep space, 600 light years away. Now, God only knows how long this has been broadcasting, but we know it's coming from far away. Humans observed the sequence, figured out what it might be, and started synthesizing / testing it on rats. Sounds like a good idea, right? Like I said before, this is akin to downloading a file you stumble across from the deep web and just hoping for the best. The biological imperative to spread first went from rats to humans via blood. This tells us something important. The hive mind is more than just a collective of all human brains. There must be something more to it, something that's helping it operate, something that's motivating it, something that's making the rules. If it had infected just rats, then wouldn't the rats just share one unified mind? But as far as we can tell, rats don't have the same level of consciousness, intelligence, and awareness as humans. We're called Homo sapiens sapiens for a reason, after all. The wise man. Now, granted, we gave ourselves that nomenclature, but still, if there was a specialized rat hive mind, maybe they would work together and not kill each other out of their own unified survivalist instinct. I don't think that would necessarily translate into the 3-step routine of 1, playing dead so that a human will pick you up, need to take off their glove to check the heartbeat, and 3, put themselves into a vulnerable enough position that you, the rat, can then bite it. In other words, this virus, whatever it is, seems to add a level of strategy, almost self-awareness, someone who's pulling the strings, who's calling the shots. Anyway, this virus that's not a virus, as the Undersecretary for Agriculture tells us, quickly spreads from blood and body fluid, which is typically a bit harder to catch because it involves sharing body fluids, to saliva and droplet transition. Think like coughing, sneezing, talking, kissing, close contact, and then it completely goes airborne. Now, this spread proliferates through these stages in a very rapid amount of time, and the effects of, quote, catching whatever this is pretty much instantaneous. A critical question: how will the hive mind turn the unaffected? This might actually define the rest of the season. The one problem that the hive mind needs to solve is how to flip the unaffected. Zoja says it will be weeks or maybe months, but they're working on it around the clock. After all, they have this biological imperative to do so. And they have the best minds working on it. What's their larger goal, and who is directing or orchestrating this movement? First things first, let me dip into the handy dandy comment section. Patreon supporter Dolores Abernathy says the hive mind is building a transmitter to send the virus to another star system and searching for their next target. I think that would be their purpose, and they could do that effectively forever. Some big questions I don't expect to be answered. How do the infected communicate? Is it instantaneous or just really fast like the internet? What is the range of that communication? Can they communicate between planets or star systems? Can they merge with other animals on Earth? Can they really exist without eating meat forever? Will they have children? And if so, how do they decide when to do that and who mate? Wouldn't they do some kind of eugenics breeding program? Why does making a hive mind of all humans trigger reckless empathy rather than self-protective utilitarianism that sacrifices troublesome individuals and other animals for the sake of the collective? I don't think these questions will be answered because I don't think it's really science fiction. I think it's a metaphor or allegory using elements of fantasy. So great feedback, insight from Dolores Abernathy. As always, I certainly hope that some of these questions will be answered. And of course, I'll talk about this a little bit later. The kind of instantaneous hive mind signaling across galaxies and light years, of course, made me think of The Expanse, the protomolecule, and the builders of the protomolecule. Inadig Hig Hag He 6369 responded to Dolores and said, my headcanon is that billions of years ago, some scientist on a planet far away created the RNA virus to stop the citizens on his or her planet from fighting and destroying themselves. Unfortunately, it resulted in a hive mind, which then started working to spread from one planet to another by sending that signal. This is obviously something I had thought about as well. Was this kind of a break the glass maneuver on another planet? Maybe it was a whole society that created it. Maybe it was a single rogue scientist. Maybe someone was able to finally time travel or do something, saw what lies ahead in the future, and knew they had to do something to stop it. K Young 3187 says, I think the virus is to completely disable the human race from being able to defend itself so aliens can eventually take over. I don't know though, could be anything. Love the show and your channel. Thank you. Also, they want to make her happy, like the virus causes humans to serve alien overlords. This brings the idea of happiness as submission, which is a chilling idea. Reminds me so much of Brave New World and Soma, how this idea of happiness, of bread and circus, we see this in the Hunger Games as well, can actually keep a people docile and therefore easy to overthrow. And this might be the whole point if aliens are indeed involved. Now, I'm going to get to my theory in just a moment here. I do think aliens are involved, but it might be in a slightly different way. After all, what would aliens want with Earth anyway? I mean, we are sick and twisted people that can't even care for our own planet and animals. Supernatural Awesome One says, I read a theory that the signal is basically a domino set in place possibly millions of years ago and has already converted God knows how many planets. A cycle that repeats. A civilization reaches a point where they can scan deep space, receive and translate the signal. They decode it and eventually create the virus. Inevitably, it gets spread out, it spreads and unites everyone on the planet. They follow an imperative to convert all life to be like them. Having confirmed life on other planets definitely exists because of the signal. They follow their imperative and the entire population works together to create a giant satellite, the size of Africa, as we hear in one episode. Using it, they blast the signal even further so any other civilization that possibly could receive the initial signal because they were too far away will receive the new signal from the newly converted world, and so on forever. We may never learn who initially created the signal, why they created it, or how many other planets have received it before the Earth. True cosmic horror. We also see that this hive mind has limitations. Maybe these are mistakes in the show, or maybe they're meant to give us little peeks into how they can be defeated. For example, Jay Goolsby says, as for professions, I'd say they should be able to deal with Carol better given all the psychology, psychiatry, therapy, etc. expertise they can access. I found it weirdly amusing that the hive mind couldn't figure out how to turn off the power without hitting Carol's neighborhood. All of the expertise in the world can't figure out the damn electric grid. I love this point, and I wonder if they did these things, the sprout, the electrical grid, etc., to show Carol who's boss. Like, it's all smiles and happiness until it isn't. But then again, humans make mistakes, and we still haven't figured out everything, such as a universal cure for cancer, and we still severely misunderstand areas of science like mental health and women's health. So I still think we have a lot to learn. We also learned that the hive cannot say no to Carol, even if that would mean their own destruction. The conversation between Carol and the DHL guy tells me that perhaps the idea of an unaffected has never happened before. If this is truly about bouncing between society to society, is Carol and Earth and the 13 people on Earth the first unaffected in the history of this domino experiment? This opens up a fascinating question. Is the Earth hive mind connected to a greater interstellar network? Is it like The Expanse, where the proto-molecule was part of this massive hive network made billions of years ago, where the same imperative is still somehow programmed into the proto-molecule? Or is it something different? What does it all mean? Finally, let me break it down. These are my theories, and again, time will only tell if they're somewhat real or not real at all. The fact that deep space is broadcasting an RNA sequence means that whoever's broadcasting it is themselves a carbon-based intelligent life form, or they know that their intended targets are. Carbon is the best element for complex biochemistry, but it's not the only possible basis for life, at least in theory. We know that life could potentially take form in different environments with different elemental building blocks. Maybe there are other ways of creating life that we can't even understand. It's kind of like how a mantis the shrimp can see hundreds more colors than humans can. There might just be things that we can't see. We can't see microwaves. We can't see the entire light spectrum. We also know that this signal was sent out at least 600 years ago due to their distance. So who could have sent it? Let's look at some candidates. First, we have the Andromedans. Now, this is very weird to talk about this right after I watched the movie Begonia. I'm making a video on that soon. Andromedans are portrayed as highly advanced, often multi-dimensional beings from the Andromeda galaxy. They're thought to be deeply spiritual, telepathic, and millions of years ahead of humanity. The Andromeda galaxy is 2.5 million light years away. They're typically described as peaceful teacher civilizations that travel through higher dimensions or wormholes and serve as guardians or guides for emerging species. In some esoteric traditions, they're even said to have contributed to human DNA. More on that later. Next, we have the Pleiadians, and I know you guys are probably going to catch me on that pronunciation. These beings come from the Pleiades, a star cluster, Seven Sisters, which is located in Taurus. Now, this is 444 light years away, so a bit closer than the 2.5 million light years away Andromeda galaxy. Pleiadians are depicted as benevolent, highly advanced beings, often described as luminous or particularly energetic humanoids who exist in higher dimensions. Think 4th dimension, 5th dimension, and beyond. They're considered spiritually evolved, telepathic, and deeply invested in guiding humanity towards greater consciousness. So if we think about the fact that humans are consciousness in a physical form, some of these higher dimensional beings may just be consciousness existing in like a cloud or a space. They might be immortal. They might not be bound by a physical form. They might not need to reproduce. Pleiadians put their consciousness in a physical form in animals so they could kind of see how it plays out. Now we're kind of getting a little bit into simulation theory, but not quite. Pleiadians are said to have helped seed or influence human DNA, acting as cosmic ancestors or early genetic contributors who nudged human evolution in a positive direction or perhaps for their own experiment. Now you'll notice I say creators. Why would I say that if these quote creators who maybe were responsible for creating our consciousness also want to destroy it? This brings me to the stoned ape theory, proposed by Terence McKenna. Fun fact, I met Terence McKenna's brother, Dennis McKenna, in Peru. That's a whole different story for another time. Cool guy, love that guy. Anyway, Terence McKenna's stoned ape theory suggests that early human consumption of psychedelic mushrooms boosted vision, creativity, social bonding, and language, helping catalyze the evolution of consciousness. McKenna sometimes described these fungi as alien teachers, mostly metaphorically, not literally sent by extraterrestrials, or were they? Interestingly enough, fungi, including psilocybin species, are extremely resilient. Studies show fungal spores can survive in extreme conditions, including near vacuum and even radiation in space, which fuels speculation about how life or consciousness influencing compounds could potentially travel across planets. If spores can survive space, then a civilization could potentially seed entire star system, not with machines, but biology, because biology reproduces itself. Let's back it up. When we were monkeys crawling along the land, perhaps one of these Andromedans, Pleiadians, or just someone else sent a mushroom on an asteroid to see what would happen. The monkeys ate it, and then our brains grew and we became Homo sapiens sapiens. I first heard about Pleiades and Pleiadians when watching an episode of Ancient Civilizations. Now, you could rip me to shreds here, but I just want you to stay on my theory for just a moment. According to the scholars in the episode, newly translated Sumerian, remember that's a dead language, tablets and hidden layers of Genesis, the book in the Bible, hint that potentially enlightened higher dimensional group had a hand in shaping humans. Apparently the word garden, which in English we think of something plush, an oasis, abundance, actually in ancient Sumerians meant enclosure. Therefore, were these higher dimensional beings trapping their consciousness in the physical form, putting us in a garden or enclosure to see what happened, aka a simulation. They wanted to simulate consciousness tied to a physical form. Could one of these advanced civilizations sent us the forbidden fruit, potentially the fungi spores, of consciousness, and then either observed at a distance or even in person, as the Garden of Eden may suggest? So what went wrong? Writer Graham Hancock, who I know he can be a little controversial, believes that human history is far older older and more mysterious than mainstream archaeology suggests, proposing that a sophisticated Ice Age civilization was destroyed by a cataclysm around 12,000 years ago, and that its survivors helped spark the rise of later ancient cultures. Though he does not claim that there's extraterrestrial involvement, his narrative overlaps thematically with these ideas, such as Pleiadians or other advanced, quote, teacher civilizations. So maybe the simplest answer is also the strangest one. Perhaps these beings, whether Andromedans, some long forgotten architect of consciousness, made us, guided us, and wiped us clean more times than we'll ever know. But what happens when that gift of consciousness becomes a curse? Every time we misused the gift, every time we grew violent, corrupt, and uncontrollable, our masters simply started us over. A flood, a fire, a plague. But here's the glitch in that cycle. Humans are resilient, hard-headed, and stubborn, just like Carol. Right? We're viral in our own way. We keep crawling back from extinction events, cosmic, geological, self-inflicted, take your pick. And eventually our creators, whatever or whoever they are, ran out of ways to hit the reset button without breaking our entire simulation, without sending a literal asteroid into Earth forever and ever. They couldn't flood or burn or sterilize Earth again without destroying their own experiment. So instead of destroying us, they set a final trap. A message moving across the darkness for 600 years. A hive mind that actually ends us. Y'all, this is why Carol is so concerned. Maybe this is the moment that the gardener steps back and lets the garden die because the weeds have learned to resist every pruning. Maybe this time the creators don't intervene, they don't punish, they don't reset, they just let their creation collapse under the weight of its own consciousness. So that's potentially my theory, a reversal of the stone date theory. It started with biology, it ends in biology. It's easier for your enemy to just destroy themselves than for you to have to come in and waste your resources. That's my theory for now. It will probably get proven wrong in the next episode. One final note that I wanted to mention, this hive mind keeps coming up over and over again, but we know a bee hive has a queen, right? The hive, the worker bees, everyone now is working together like little worker bees, except it's pretty instantaneous. But what about the queen? Could it be less that it's about the hive and more about the queen? If Carol can command the hive to give her an atom bomb, then can she command them not to turn her, even if they have the technology to do so? Maybe humanity belongs to the last man or last woman standing. Speaking of a domino effect, I think that we were introduced to a lot of these unaffected because we will see them turn. Carol will meet Manusos in the next episode. Between him and Kumba, we got some hard-headed, selfish people out there, and maybe only one can survive. What do you guys think of my theories? Let me know in the comments below. Maybe you'll be able to piece them together a little bit more than me, but this is just something I have not been able to stop thinking about. Special shout out to my Waffle Party VIP members. Thank you to Matt Winbury, Chris Bazeski, Bo Dierker, Marlon Yamson, Daniel Ariano, Jim Rodney, and Dolores Abernathy. And thank you to all of my other Patreon members who support me. I cannot wait for the next episode. I'm gonna be ready. Let me know if you guys want to see me do a live sometime, either before or after one of these episodes. It'll be just like the good old days with Severance. I'll see you next time. Stay safe out there. Bye.